Learning Activity 2. Evidence: the tiny house movement. At a certain point in our lives, we'll think about getting a house. That's why moving out from parents' house seems to be the goal of mostly young workers who see this as a sign of independence and personal fulfillment. In that sense, having a house is part of that goal. However, the prices for housing might seem sometimes like a rip-off for some who can't afford buying a house. There are some who think that there's no need of a fancy thing, just a place to live hassle-free. Well, what if I told you that there's a way to live with dignity for a cheaper price than a regular house? Don't be uneasy, because here has come the tiny house movement. This movement aims minimalistic style as a way to live, so they created what they call tiny houses, which are small houses built on trailers typically sized under 600 square feet. Although it might sound difficult to believe, tiny houses can have almost the same parts a normal house has. There you can find from a kitchen with a fridge, a stove, a microwave, a silverware, a sink and so on, to a living room with a television, stereo system, a sofa, etc., to even a loft in the second plant with a bed, shelves and all the minimalistic stuff you can imagine. So if you're looking for an affordable home, a tiny house might be a great concept to try out, since it costs a lot less than the regular housing. Nevertheless, there are some things we have to carry out before in order to take off any discontent that could be involved, such as the following. Law regulation. There are not regulations for tiny houses in Colombia, so it's a great challenge, but the tiny house community must turn on their legislative to rule aspects such as insurance, parking sites, and other aspects that could be relevant. Parking places. It can be a challenge as you have to be aware of the place you'd like to move into. It might be advisable to examine aspects such as the security, the weather, the ground, a neighborhood you can count on, etc. It's also recommendable to find a tiny house community so you could park in the same lot as well as relying that there's someone looking after your property and keeping strangers out from breaking into it. Going tiny. You'll have to transition from living in a normal sized house to a tiny one, so it could be difficult if you aren't ready yet. Check the next signs. You can't get rid of your stuff. You think you need to have as much space as possible to keep yourself cheered up. You don't have a place where to settle your home down, or you and your partner haven't settled in, both living in a small place. Finally, if you don't have any drawback and you meet the requirements, lift off the tiny house project and don't give up until you play out this wonderful housing idea.